Hello, Mad Money fans. Jim is off today, but we've got a special edition of Fast Money in store where we're taking all of your questions, including big ones on airlines, hotels, banks, IPOs, Facebook, Amazon, Disney, and so many more. Here for some answers, Guy Adami, Tim Seymour, and Dan Nathan. Well, it has been a big year for you individual investors out there. According to clearing data, your top trades have included airlines, Virgin Galactic, and IPOs. So let's start in that order.
Andrew here from the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Just had a quick question. Airlines, is now a good time, in particular American Airlines. Been watching them for a while with the vaccines rolling out and people starting to come out and travel. Just curious if now is a good time to jump into some of the airline stocks. Happy holidays to you and your families. Thanks a lot.
Guy, what do you tell Andrew in Washington?
PNW, they call that, the Pacific Northwest. See, I'm hip. I know. Andrew, thanks for calling in. Listen, American Airlines actually traded up to the level we saw on June 8th, I think 20-ish, and failed, whereas Delta traded to that June 8th high and ratcheted through. I think that tells you all you need to know, in my opinion, about American Airlines. Tim can speak to this as well. But one of the things we've talked about now for the last month or so is the levered play is in a name called SPR, Spirit Aero Systems. That stock's been on fire. And that's really levered to what's going on with Boeing. So Delta over American, SPR over both.
You go for the airlines, Dan, or the parts suppliers to the airlines?
I think you go for the airlines, but here's a little fun fact from the Pacific Northwest. Remember that D.B. Cooper guy? Well, I have a feeling that if you look at that picture, go Google it, kids, Guy Adami looks like D.B. Cooper. He jumped out of a plane back in 1971 in the Pacific Northwest. That being said, JetBlue, I think, is really interesting. I think you want to stay on these domestic plays. I think you want to stay with the ones that didn't have the max sort of exposure. And I'll just say this. I just booked my first flight in a year, which is kind of astounding when you think about how frequently we all used to fly, which will be 13 months from my last flight. That is just an astounding thing if you think about it. So to me, I like JetBlue. I like the domestic play here.
And Tim, you are in actual airlines.
Yeah, I own Delta, I own a little Alaska, and I think this is a case where you've had a very good run, and I think you need to be careful about buying airlines that you think will normalize earnings faster. We know that the international is in a difficult spot. We know business travel, which is the bread and butter, is going to come back more slowly. But I do think you've got a case where best in breed have probably gotten stronger. Delta did nothing dilutive during this period in terms of their equity shares, and I'm a long-term holder.
I can hear the internet breaking, all the people Googling D.B. Cooper and who is D.B. Cooper. Yeah, Guy, quick question for you. What is it?
No, there's a problem now because I have to leave the show because I guarantee in about 30 seconds you're going to see the sirens from the officials from the Federal Bureau of Investigation circling my house because they've been looking for D.B. Cooper. Who's to say I'm not? And Dan just outed me on national TV, jerk.
We'll see. Let's get to our next question. From air to space.
This is Peter from Hackensack. Virgin Galactic stated mission, purpose, and vision caught my attention earlier this year. I've been day trading Virgin Galactic on the swings and have done nicely. I'm currently holding a large block of shares which I purchased at about 20. I'm wondering, should I go long on the entire position, trade some of it on swings, or consider other alternatives?
Interesting question. Tim, what's the answer?
Well, trading this thing on swings and momentum and volatility is something you get a lot of. And I think this stock has certainly been part of, it's a thematic story, which is not one where anyone should be caring about fundamentals, frankly. I am not a player in this space. I do think that this is an interesting concept. Obviously, the aborted mission about 10 days ago gave the stock a lot of volatility to the downside. The chart actually looks quite interesting. And it looks like it consolidated and certainly is brought back after those losses, and it looks like it's probably moving higher.
Yeah, that was a 17% drop or so that day. Guy, what's your advice?
Well, I mean, if Karen Feynman were here, she would say correctly, it doesn't matter where you're long something. It only matters where it's going. So try to get that cost thing out of your head, number one. Number two, the stock has given you ample opportunities since the beginning of the year to trade around it. When I say opportunities, to Mel's point, it has 15, 20, 25% swing. So take advantage of that. Stay long a core position, trade around it. That would be my advice.
All right, let's get to our first question on 2020 IPOs.
Hey traders, John here from Minnesota. A question for you on DraftKings. 5 to 10 year outlook with states running at a deficit, probably needing to find money somewhere, and an easy answer would be legalizing online betting. Thanks.
Dan.
Yeah, I think you have the time horizon correct, and I think you have the catalyst also very correct. And again, I think just like we were just talking about that last name, this stock has been very volatile, and there's going to be a lot of supply. It came public this year through a merger, through a SPAC, and there's going to be lockup. So you're going to have these periods where the stock sells off. There is a trend line. Go back to April, touch the early November low. If you get this thing back in the low 40s, that looks like a good opportunity to kind of reload. But I think around that same question of the last one, I think you trade around a stock like this with the idea that you have a long-term time horizon and you always want to keep a core holding in it.
It's an interesting notion that states need the money, and so therefore we'll look to legalize something, Tim. And we saw that play out to some degree in the cannabis space, and we're continuing to see that play out across states. Do you believe this happens in betting as well?
Look, there's rationalization around, is this something that can raise money, and how bad was it? And if we regulate it and we actually make it transparent and we actually have the ability to make it safer, this is all good stuff. Yes, these are the same things that have gone on in cannabis. I think as it relates to betting, you have some of the same risks, obviously well-defined risks in terms of where betting has been off limits for sports, and in fact the embracing of the sports community and the co-branding. And to me, I think it's very early days. And unlike Galactic, which I have trouble buying something that makes no money, DraftKings isn't going to make money for the foreseeable. But the market share and the way you value this on a price to sales, but some percentage of this addressable market over the next 2 to 5 years, at least right now, is why I like DraftKings as one of the legacy players.
Guy, you are nodding, I assume, in agreement.
How many U.S. states are there? That's not a trick question. I know you know the answer to that.
50. Why?
They're 50, half 100. Well, you say half 100 because if you say 50, sometimes it sounds like 15. That's another PSA. Because the great thing about this country are the accents. I mean, my accent is just basically dumb.
You're going to comment on the Minnesota?
But John's accent, the Minnesota accent was tremendous. Did you catch that? I mean, it's unbelievable. Good for John, number one. Number two, DraftKings, basically that secondary, that 32 million share secondary they did, I believe at 52.5, that took all the wind out of the sales of the stock. It's recaptured that. I think you stayed long right at this level. And to Tim's point, it's not what they're doing now. It's what the addressable market is in the future. I know I hate that term, but it's true in terms of DraftKings. I think it goes higher from here, John. And thanks for calling in.
It's a video question, so thanks for sending the video in. All right, I want to get to this next question because it is a special one.
Hello, I'm Sam.
I'm Allie.
And I'm Kate.
We have a special triple Christmas Would You Rather. When each of us graduated from kindergarten, we chose 2 investments. We all chose Disney, which has done very well. Our other stocks rely on strong consumers, domestically and foreign. We want to know what you think of our stocks. Would you rather
Starbucks,
Apple, or McDonald's? Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Sam, Allie, and Kate are adorable, and they are very astute investors. Tim, what's your advice?
First of all, I think the approach to starting them young and learning about markets is extraordinary here. How well spoken. I mean, these girls are adorable. And the would you rather, they obviously watch Fast Money as well. And I think the story around Disney and some sense that the reopening trade is something that Disney is part of the reopening process, and Starbucks as well. If you add me to would you rather, I think it's Starbucks. Starbucks to me is the most bulletproof stock in the middle of this. And I think they've proven that in good times and bad. And they're growing their investor base. Their digital and their loyalty programs mean that the company is more valuable than it was yesterday. And that continues.
Guy, what's your advice to the 3 young ladies?
Yeah, stay in school. That's my number one. I'm kidding. It's a joke, Mel. You can laugh. I mean, of course they're going to stay
I'm
in
laughing
school. They sound
inside.
they sound like the Andrews sisters. It's genius. My would you rather out of the ones they picked would be McDonald's. Obviously, Apple is a great call, and Disney. I think there was just a price target raise on Disney. A lot of people think, Tim included, that thing's headed well north of $200 a share. But McDonald's is the standby. That's the staple. McRib is back. Comps have been fantastic. It's a technology play to boot. MCD, my play.
We love the McRib, that's for sure. Dan, are you just going to confuse the girls and say Apple?
Well, it's a good thing. It's a good thing we didn't line up Guy's three kids, because they would have said Tilray, DraftKings, and Constellation, and I would say stay in school, kids. All right, the answer for those three beautiful young kids would be Apple, I think. You know, listen, I think a lot of the reopening trade is in Starbucks here. I think Disney, their streaming stuff, is kind of accounting for a lot of the stuff that will be part of the reopening trade when that happens. But right here, I just think, again, Apple looks poised to break out into the new year here. So to me, I like the Apple here.
All right.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.